What is going on, YouTube fitness family? Eric Janke back here with another video. We're going to be doing some more EMG testing today, guys. I know it's a very controversial thing, is oh, EMG doesn't really work. But what I'm using EMG for today is to test what's going to give us the best bang for buck when it comes to stimulatory response in our biceps. So if you want to have huge arms, this is the video for you. So the way EMG testing works is there's sensors that I'm going to put directly on my biceps, and it's going to test basically stimulatory electronic responses from my tissue as I train. So the harder that I'm contracting, the higher the spike in contractile response. This new age EMG technology that I'm getting from Mr. EMG though, tests the entirety of the movement pattern. So it doesn't just test the spikes, it also tests the total stimulatory load across the entire rep. So not only the peak contraction, but also that eccentric. So without further ado, let's check it out, see what gets us the biggest guns that we could possibly have. All right, so we're gonna start with a bunch of dumbbell variants. So one of most people's most favorite are gonna be a dumbbell hammer curl. So obviously keeping your hand as like a hammer shape. A lot of people say this is going to elicit a better, more like width in the bicep, whereas kind of supinating the palm is gonna give us more peak. So we'll see, we're gonna do both variants, hammer and supination, basically going hammer to supinated, but we'll start with just the strict hammer curls. I'm gonna go with 50s. I'm gonna try to be as synonymous across the board, what I would do maybe like a working set with. And I'm just gonna go like 4 to 6 reps each arm. Obviously, very good exercise. Couple form cues. Pull that chest nice and open to the ceiling, because what that's gonna do is expose your bicep to even more stretch at the bottom of the rep and take the front delt out of it and give you more space to get a nice peak contraction. So bigger stretch, better postural integrity, and then also just allows you to keep the focus as much in the bicep as possible. So really, really like that exercise, tremendous. It's also really good for people that have maybe a little bit of wrist issues, because you kind of stick it right up to the top of the dumbbell and control it here. So you don't have to worry about flexion in this capacity for your wrist. A lot of people have issues, especially once they go heavier with a supination curl. So onto the supination curl. All right, now we're going to supination curl. So I'm going to start neutral and I'm going to curl up and try to pull that pinky up nice and hard to get a nice peak contraction. So argument a lot of people makes is better for the peak, whereas that hammer curl is more for the width. Same form cues, pull that chest nice and open. Definitely a really good burn. I think with the supinate curls, I get a little more like acute, like crazy burn in the bicep, but both are tremendous exercises in my opinion. Next exercise, we're going to do a dumbbell supinated incline curl, one of my favorite exercises, very isolated. Gonna go a little lighter just because you're in a little bit of a mechanically less advantageous position to go as heavy, but this one is not as much about going heavy, it's more about isolating the biceps. So what we're gonna do is tuck the elbows as far down as we can into the sides, exposing them, and we're gonna huge stretch bias on this, so I'll have Phil fire it up for me. So big eccentric load, huge stretch. And what's nice about these is it pushes your elbows back, which is gonna completely isolate the bicep, take it out of the front delt, put your bicep on an island essentially. And it's also a very good stretch biased exercise. You see how I don't over curl too, so I don't try to lift the elbows to get more range of motion at the top. Oh, that's a failure set for you guys. All right, so we're gonna do incline dumbbell iso curl here. We're gonna come here on an incline bench. We're going to turn the body. I like to turn it almost open so I can get even more stretch bias. We're gonna get a huge stretch here. This one's also a very nice iso because you can't obviously lift the elbow off, and it puts your bicep on a complete island. You can't use momentum at all. Next one, we have a machine curl. Most of you guys are gonna have something like this in your gym. Big thing I like to do on these is actually lean back, because then I'm already putting my biceps in a stretch position. So a lot of people hunch over this. What I do is actually sit up on it. So really good, obviously, isolation there. Big stretch bias on those because I was leaning back. Pretty safe exercise, hard to get wrong. So definitely good for a beginner if you don't really know the mechanics of how to do bicep curls without maybe swinging or moving your elbow. Really good way to start and get a really, really good bicep pump. Honestly, preacher curls, when I started in the gym, one of the first things I did because they're very easy, elbows locked in place. Just be very safe with the load, because obviously putting your elbow in that straightened position with a ton of weight. I'm sure you guys have all seen the guy that tore both of his biceps doing a preacher curl. Not pretty. Moving on to a dual cable curl, basically standing out and away. What this is gonna do, huge stretch as well. One of my favorite exercises for biceps, because that vector of force is almost coming from behind you. So in contrast to, let's say, a dumbbell curl, right? At the bottom of your rep, you're basically stacking the joint. So you've got very little tension on your bicep. Now watch this, when I step away, I already have tension in the bottom of my rep. So I'm already have that vector of force coming from behind me. So from there, I'm already have a tremendous amount of contractile response. Another one of my staple movement patterns is a lying bicep curl cable. You can use a kind of one of the kind of easy grip bars. I kind of like both that and this kind of straight bar. I kind of set all the way to the outside. What I do is lie all the way back on this seated row. You can do on the floor too from just one of the other low pulleys. I just like it because then you have a bench. And as you can see, it completely puts your biceps on an island. So I can't use momentum. I'm gonna arch the back, pull the elbows down, curl up, squeeze. All right, second to last exercise, we are going to do a standing barbell curl. I'm just gonna use the preset, save time. I also like it has the ridges and kind of the bends in it. Be a little bit more ergonomic. So I'm just gonna use the 90. Standing, same kind of form cues I've given you on the dumbbells. I want you to kind of reach your chest open, lean back, expose the biceps. So don't ego lift on this one, guys. I know it's gonna be tempting to shoot the hips, but try to curl all the biceps, keeping those elbows nice and tucked. Last exercise, we got the preacher curl. So most people's go-to exercise. It's nice because it puts your biceps on an island. Obviously, like I said, have to be very careful because it is probably the most dangerous because basically pinning your elbow in here with a lot of weight in that straightened position. But as long as you're safe, use good eccentric loading and don't go crazy with the weight, you should be just fine. So I got a 80-pound preset here. The only thing I don't like about these as much as, let's say, that lying curl is that peak contraction. You're almost stacking the joints. So when I get up to here, that barbell is going straight through, down through my elbow, through the pad, that vector of force. So I have very little contractile force, and I'm sure the data will show that at the top of my rep. It'll get a good, probably stretch bias. All right, data collected, guys, all done with that. So we're gonna get into data. I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I used to get pumped up for today's workout. I used my pre-workout 2.0. We also now have the 3.0. Still waiting to get my hands on that. I mixed 1 scoop of that with my hardcore stim and my Turk builder. And then intra workout, I use GO2 max creatine. And I also don't have it with me, but I have my Perilite, which is for electrolytes and aminos. But guys, I have a bunch of stacks on the HTLT website. So go and check them out. Support me, support the best brand. Let's blow this thing up to the moon, and I will see you guys with those results. All right, guys, data is in. We have the results that you've all been waiting for your whole life. What is going to give you the biggest biceps? And so I'm gonna go through my top 5 exercises using that, what my knowledge is on, obviously, stretch mediated hypertrophy, how much we can isolate the bicep, how safe that is, that stimulus fatigue ratio. So I'm gonna going through number 5 through 1 based on our data and also what I know about driving stimulus. We have number 5, I'm going to go the hammer and supinated dumbbell curls. So just because you're standing and you don't have any levers to make sure you keep that emphasis in the bicep, that's gonna be one that is a good exercise, especially for beginners. Anybody can pick up a dumbbell, but it's a lot more form focused. You really have to keep the chest pulled open and back. It's gonna keep the emphasis out of the front and delt and keep it into the bicep, either for hammers or for supinated curls. So keep those form cues in mind. In number 4, we have the incline bench iso dumbbell curl. So that was a single arm that actually peaked very highly. I kind of left it out of the data because it was single arm, but it peaked really high. It had really high amplitude data, but also peak contraction volume. And then number 3, we have the lying straight bar curls. So even though this didn't test as high in the top 3 of the total volume, it's such a tremendous exercise. It puts your biceps on an island. You have obviously contractionary load in the, load in the stretch position, and you have crazy load in the contracted position. You can't use momentum, allows you to pin your shoulders back and almost drag it up the body, which is proven to be extremely efficacious for growth. Number 2, I have the preacher curl, which I was sleeping on, but tremendous exercise. You can easily progressively overload it, but just remember, guys, be very safe with this movement pattern. It's really easy to injure yourself, especially at the bottom of the rep. And the number 1, not a surprise here, incline dumbbell curls. It's just such a good movement pattern. You get that stretch bias. You also have really crazy peak contraction response. You don't have to go as heavy. It's safer. Stimulus fatigue ratio is tremendous. Chef's kiss there. So hope you guys are enjoying these videos with data-driven, science-driven, obviously feedback, so you guys can take this into your training and get the best results possible. Remember, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification, go get your HTLT subs, go get your Alpha Elite apparel. Best products in the game. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.